Hey, brother. I appreciate you reaching out. Wanted to give you at least 5 minutes and kind of describe how I got here. It sounds like you might want to go into the same direction, so try to put together my best estimation of kind of how I got here and the skills. It's an interesting question because I think that a lot of my journey has been luck. Um, and I don't. It's really hard because a CRO type position, or at least in kind of a leadership position like this, is going to have different requirements based on kind of what you're doing, who you're selling to. There's a lot of variables out here. So I want to stay very broad, help give you some actionable stuff that might really help you start to chart a path and chart a course down kind of where you want to go. So I've got basically 5 skills I've written down that I think would be applicable across any type of role. Um, and then I've got 2 books I think that would really help accelerate this learning. I'm a huge reader. At one point, I was up to 50 books a year or so. I've kind of tapered off because you run out of books to read that at that rate. But I think that was a really big part of kind of my acceleration into this space. So understanding kind of as a CRO, understanding where revenue is generated and specifically like which RGAs you need to be doing every day, revenue generating activities. You should be only be focusing on those 3 things. And so what I did was I developed an action plan, which is a document that I shared with my business partners, and that's basically going to be my guiding light for the next year or so. So that was one thing I did. But as part of that and how I developed that was I read 2 books that were huge for me. Traction, which is understanding how to actually implement business leadership in a really effective way. And then personal MBA helps you understand all the different types of ways businesses make money because in our position, specifically with recruiting in the agency side, we need to understand how these business models for our clients work so that we can understand how to actually get in the drive, like get in the passenger seat alongside them and go in the same direction in the same vehicle. Without that, it's really hard to understand kind of what you're doing, what work is most important, and how to actually conduct a consultative sales process, which is one of the 5 skills I wanted to kind of outline here with you. But anyways, personal MBA is really good because again, it just goes over a bunch of different key terms. It's basically like an encyclopedia that it's a little bit more entertaining than that. It's a dense read, but even right here, like the first section is value creation, the 5 parts of every business. And then it goes over like different forms of value. And so you basically just understand like how businesses drive value and therefore revenue. Traction is much more tactical. How to basically split up how to build your business and how to split up what you're doing and keep focused on the things that you're uniquely qualified to do as a CRO. All right, so now 10 of the 5 skills that I think you should probably start to develop. Up to you how you develop these. It's really hard to just practice these things without trying to put in the reps or take on a level of responsibility like this. But here are the 5 things, man. I think number 1, you got to have executive presence, which means that whoever you're talking to, you don't have that nervous feeling of this person has more status, makes more money, has more experience than me. You got to get that out of your brain. You got to be able to meet them where they are and just understand like, hey, this is someone's dad. This is someone's aunt. Like if you were their nephew, would you treat them any differently, or would you just know that person is your parent's sibling? So like, just treat them like family, and don't be so caught off guard by their status, their LinkedIn title, their reputation, their resume, whatever. It's all kind of bullshit, anyways. So, second thing is going to be revenue levers, and so understanding in a business what is actually driving revenue. So for us, we have 2 things that really drive revenue. One, our ability to deliver, like under promise and over deliver for clients. And so we're very focused on the onboarding process. We're very focused on, setting expectations and smashing through those expectations. And then also at the beginning of a relationship, basically understanding, hey, what does it look like to work together now, knowing that we're going to be working together in a year. And so, we're not so tied up around like extracting maximum value of that first contract or that first placement because we don't have cash flow issues. And so that's part of joining a healthy business, but, planning for that. So far we've got executive presence and revenue levers. Oh, I'm sorry. The other lever is traffic. And so the more traffic that we bring in from a personal brand perspective, the more clients that we get and the more our reputation compounds. I think you've heard me say this too. Reputation and skill set are the two things you need to start compounding and continue compounding in your sales career outside of taking calls, performing, and earning commissions. Those are the two things that are going to accelerate your, excuse me, I've got a little bit of allergies, your performance in this space. So even something as simple as, reaching out with questions like this, it's a really good way to compound your reputation. Because, dude, you're a hungry guy. You're willing to learn. You're asking really good questions. Like that's valuable, and it helps me understand kind of what is more valuable into the marketplace. So that's those two things. The third thing I is part of revenue levers, but just understanding where the traffic is coming from to your business, how that traffic turns into booked calls, and how those booked calls turn into a sale. Like that's really important, just to understand how you get someone under your belt and into a client position. So understanding where your traffic sources are coming from, it's going to be different for everybody. For us, it's a lot of social. We don't have a blog yet. We don't have a newsletter yet. Not that we might do that stuff, but just understanding where the journey starts is really important. And then, pour gasoline on that fire. Excuse me again. The fourth one I have here is a consultative B2B sales mindset. So your business is going to have capabilities and skills that you offer, and hopefully you'll have an individual case study or a few or proof that you can do those things for your business. And so in a position like this, like we have a lot of things we can do for clients. We're not just like a productized service that just churns, because again, that's not really value. Like what we do is very custom for each client. And so our sales process is very consultative. It's asking a ton of questions like, okay, understand that's where we want to go. Like what implications do you expect? What do you expect to happen if we continue down this road for 6 months or 8 months? Like what do you think that leads us? And just basically helping the customer or the client get out of their current mindset and frame, because they might be feeling a problem that's so intense to them personally, but it's actually not a problem in their business. It's just a personal problem. And so you need to be able to, the whole goal of a consultative B2B sales process, you start the conversation on two sides of the table. Here's the table. I'm over here and you're over there. You need to be able to flip and get on the same side of the table and objectively look at their business and go, hey, what do you kind of see here as problems based on your previous experience? And what role do you imagine we play from hearing about kind of what we offer or how we help this person that referred to you? Like, how do you believe we can actually work together to get to this spot and solve this problem? And then just taking your time, right? Like this is a B2B process. Again, we want to be working with people for many years. And so that's just a skill set you got to develop too. And then the last one is just be a business nerd. Like you just have to all of your inputs, not all of them, but most of your inputs have to be focused around just really nerding out on business. How do businesses make money? How do businesses sell? What do they sell for? Why do they sell? Who's successful in business? Why are they successful in business? What are some trends that are working? What are some trends that aren't working? What are some really old business models that are really working? Just nerd out in any way you can. Like for me, I love watching like YouTube podcasts about business people. I also very strongly feel, based on my experience in reading through this book, that the modern businessman and the entrepreneur is probably as close to a philosophical figurehead as we can get right now, just because everything is so crazy and social media is nuts. And follow those people. Don't be afraid to, follow a business person that might be a little bit cringe, but that they're doing really good stuff, because that's how you're going to learn and develop that muscle of being a business nerd. So just to recap, man, I went 5 minutes over. Here's 10 minutes for you. 5 skills: executive presence, revenue levers, traffic, consultative B2B sales process, and just become a business nerd. No, some of these aren't skills. Some of these are just things. But if you can do those things, man, and also read these 2 books, Personal MBA by, Josh Kaufman. He's really good. If you listen to one of his podcasts, he's kind of annoying, kind of a know-it-all. He's just kind of a consultant for consultant's sake. I get that. He's a really good author, but this book is awesome. So, take that with a grain of salt. And then Traction. So this is part of a larger program called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, but Traction is the book that helps understand where you might fit in as a business leader and how you can, coexist with other business leaders that don't do the same things as you. Hope that's helpful, man. Always hit me up with any more questions. Sorry it took me a few days to get back to you. Take care.